To keep seeing more stories, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. If you like this video, share your feedback in the comments section. A moment of distraction. Natalie Brooks smoothed down her simple black dress for the third time that evening, feeling completely out of place among the glittering crowd. The charity gala was packed with people who belonged to a different world, one where designer gowns and expensive jewelry were as common as coffee breaks in her office. She was only here because her boss needed someone to represent their marketing firm, and everyone else had conveniently found excuses. The Grand Hotel ballroom sparkled under the enormous chandeliers that hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls of light. Natalie stood near a marble pillar, trying to blend into the background while sipping sparkling water from a crystal glass. She watched the wealthy guests mingle, their laughter light and carefree, their conversations flowing as smoothly as the champagne being served on silver trays. Her phone buzzed in her small clutch. Natalie glanced around, making sure no one was paying attention to her before pulling it out. It was a message from her roommate asking about rent. Just 1 second, she told herself. One quick reply and she would put the phone away. The collision. That single second changed everything. She did not see him approaching. Did not notice the tall figure moving through the crowd with purposeful strides. Did not sense the shift in the air around her until it was too late. Strong hands grasped her arms, gentle but firm. Natalie's head snapped up from her phone, her eyes widening in shock. Before she could process what was happening, before she could speak or move or even breathe, she was pulled forward. And then his lips were on hers. The kiss was confident, deliberate, and completely unexpected. Natalie's mind went blank. Her phone slipped from her fingers, caught by one of his hands before it could fall. The world around them seemed to freeze. She could hear gasps rippling through the nearby crowd, could feel dozens of eyes turning in their direction, but she could not move. The man kissing her was tall, significantly taller than her even in her heels. His suit was perfectly tailored, the kind of expensive clothing that spoke of power and wealth. His cologne was subtle but intoxicating, mixing with the warmth radiating from his body. When he finally pulled back, Natalie found herself staring into the most intense gray eyes she had ever seen. They were calculating, intelligent, and held secrets she could not begin to guess. The declaration. He did not let go of her. Instead, his arm slid around her waist, holding her close against his side as he turned to face the stunned onlookers. "She is with me," he said, his voice deep and authoritative, carrying easily through the hushed ballroom. The whispers started immediately. "That is Vincent Sterling. The Vincent Sterling, CEO of Sterling Industries. I heard he is worth billions. Who is that girl?" Natalie felt her heart pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. Vincent Sterling. Even she, who paid little attention to business news, knew that name. He was one of the most powerful men in the city, maybe in the entire country. And he had just kissed her in front of hundreds of people. She tried to step away, but his grip tightened just enough to keep her in place. His head bent slightly, his lips near her ear. "Please, do not pull away," he murmured, his voice so low only she could hear. "I need your help. Just for tonight." Need her help? This man who could probably buy her entire apartment building with pocket change needed help from her? The confrontation. Before Natalie could respond, a woman appeared before them. She was stunning, with perfectly styled blonde hair, a designer dress that probably cost more than Natalie's yearly salary, and a smile that did not reach her cold blue eyes. "Vincent," the woman said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "What a surprise. I did not know you were seeing anyone." "Claudia," Vincent replied smoothly, his tone polite but distant. "I was not aware I needed to inform you of my personal life." Claudia's smile tightened. Her gaze swept over Natalie with obvious disdain, taking in her simple dress, her modest jewelry, her practical heels. "How fascinating," Claudia continued. "And who might this be?" She seems rather ordinary for someone of your status. Natalie felt anger flare in her chest, but Vincent spoke before she could. This is Natalie Brooks, he said, his arm pulling her even closer. My girlfriend. The word hung in the air like a bell that could not be unrung. Girlfriend. Natalie's mind reeled. This could not be happening. This had to be some bizarre dream brought on by stress and cheap wine from the office party last week. Your girlfriend, Claudia repeated, her eyes narrowing. How convenient that she appears just as our families were discussing a potential merger. Just as my father was suggesting an alliance between our companies through marriage. Suddenly, everything made sense. This was not about Natalie at all. This was about Vincent Sterling escaping an arranged marriage, a business deal disguised as romance. And she had become his convenient shield, his fake girlfriend, all because she had been distracted by her phone at the wrong moment. The choice. Claudia's father approached, a tall man with silver hair and an imposing presence. Behind him were several other well-dressed individuals, all watching the scene with varying degrees of interest and calculation. Vincent's hand found Natalie's, his fingers intertwining with hers. His palm was warm, his grip steady and somehow reassuring despite the chaos of the situation. I should have announced this sooner, Vincent said, addressing the growing crowd. But Natalie and I have been keeping our relationship private. Tonight seemed like the perfect opportunity to make things official. Natalie's throat was dry. She should speak up, tell everyone this was a mistake, explain that she did not even know this man. But when she looked up at Vincent, she saw something in his eyes that made her hesitate. Not manipulation or arrogance, but something almost like desperation, carefully hidden beneath layers of confidence and control. He needed this. For whatever reason, Vincent Sterling, one of the most powerful men in the city, needed her to play along. And somehow, impossibly, Natalie found herself nodding, the pretend arrangement that escaped the rest of the gala passed in a blur. Natalie barely remembered the conversations, the introductions, the endless questions from curious guests. Vincent kept her close the entire time, his hand never leaving hers, his responses smooth and practiced whenever someone asked about their relationship, that he told stories that sounded so real, so detailed, that even Natalie almost believed them. How they met at a coffee shop 6 months ago. How she had spilled her latte on his favorite tie. How he had been charmed by her genuine apology and refusal to be intimidated by his reputation. The lies flowed from his lips like rehearsed poetry, and the crowd ate up every word. When the evening finally wound down, Vincent guided her toward a side exit, away from the main crowd. His hand rested lightly on her lower back, a gesture that felt both protective and possessive. A sleek black car waited outside, and a driver opened the door without a word. Get in, Vincent said quietly. Please. We need to talk. Natalie hesitated. Every reasonable part of her brain screamed that getting into a car with a stranger was a terrible idea, billionaire or not. But the evening had already crossed so far beyond reasonable that one more step hardly seemed to matter. She slid into the luxurious leather seat, and Vincent followed, the door closing behind them with a soft click. The driver pulled away from the hotel, and suddenly they were alone in the quiet darkness of the car's interior. The truth, for a long moment, neither of them spoke. Natalie stared out the window, watching the city lights blur past, trying to process everything that had happened. Vincent sat beside her, his posture relaxed but his expression thoughtful. I owe you an explanation, he finally said. You think so? Natalie's voice came out sharper than she intended. You kissed me without permission, claimed I was your girlfriend in front of hundreds of people, and dragged me into whatever mess you are trying to avoid. Yes, I would say an explanation is the least you owe me. To her surprise, Vincent smiled slightly. It was the first genuine expression she had seen on his face all evening. You are angry. Good. That means you have not been completely overwhelmed by the situation. Of course I am angry, Natalie snapped. I do not even know you. And now everyone at that gala thinks we are together. Do you have any idea how this could affect my life? My job? What if someone tells my boss? What if this gets back to my family? Vincent turned to face her fully. In the dim light of the car, his features were softer, less intimidating than they had been in the ballroom. You are right, he said simply. What I did was wrong. I used you, and I had no right to do that. But I was desperate, and you were there, and I made a choice in a split second that has now involved you in something much bigger than either of us anticipated. What are you talking about? Natalie asked, some of her anger fading into curiosity despite herself. Vincent ran a hand through his dark hair, messing up the perfect styling. The gesture made him look younger, more human. Claudia Winters and her father have been pressuring me for months about a marriage arrangement. Their company is struggling, and they see an alliance with Sterling Industries as their salvation. My board of directors thinks it is a good strategic move. My mother, who still sits on the board despite her retirement, has been pushing me to consider it seriously. So you decided to invent a fake girlfriend instead of just saying no? I have said no, Vincent replied, his voice tired. Repeatedly. But they do not listen. In their world, in my world, marriage is often just another business transaction. They assumed I would eventually see reason and agree to the arrangement. Tonight, Claudia's father was planning to announce our engagement without my consent, using the charity event as a public platform to pressure me into accepting. Natalie felt a chill run down her spine. That is horrible. That is my life, Vincent said quietly. I saw him moving toward the stage with the event coordinator. I had maybe 2 minutes before he would make the announcement, and once it was public, backing out would have caused a scandal that could have damaged both companies and hurt innocent employees who depend on Sterling Industries for their livelihoods. He looked at her, and for the first time, Natalie saw the weight he carried behind those gray eyes. You were standing there, looking so out of place, so real in a room full of people wearing masks. And I thought, if I could just make them believe I was already committed to someone else, I could stop this without causing a public scene. I know that does not excuse what I did. I know I should have asked, should have found another way. But I did not, and now here we are. The proposal. The car pulled up in front of a modest apartment building. Natalie's apartment building. She stared at Vincent in shock. How did you know where I live? Vincent had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. I had my assistant look you up while we were at the gala. I needed to know who you were, in case anyone started asking questions. That is creepy. I know. Add it to the list of things I need to apologize for. Natalie reached for the door handle, ready to escape this surreal evening and pretend it had never happened. But Vincent's next words stopped her. I want to hire you. She turned back, staring at him. What? I need this arrangement to continue, Vincent said, his tone shifting into something more businesslike. Just for a few months. Long enough to convince Claudia and her father that I am genuinely committed to someone else, that their plans for a merger through marriage are impossible. In return, I will compensate you generously. You want to pay me to be your fake girlfriend? Natalie could not believe what she was hearing. Think of it as a temporary position, Vincent replied. A job. You would need to attend some events with me, be seen in public occasionally, maybe meet my family once or twice. Nothing inappropriate, nothing that would make you uncomfortable. Just enough to maintain the appearance that we are in a real relationship. This is insane. Yes, Vincent agreed. But it is also a solution to both of our problems. I do not have a problem, Natalie pointed out. Vincent pulled out his phone and showed her a screen. It was a gossip website, already featuring photos from the gala. The headline read, Billionaire CEO Vincent Sterling locks lips with mystery woman. You do now, he said gently. By tomorrow morning, every gossip site and news outlet will have picked up this story. They will find out who you are. They will dig into your life, contact your friends, possibly even show up at your workplace. You can try to deny the relationship, but that will only make them more interested. Or you can work with me, control the narrative, and get paid very well for your trouble. Natalie felt her stomach sink. He was right. The moment he had kissed her, her life had changed whether she liked it or not. How much? She heard herself ask. Vincent named a figure that made her head spin. It was more money than she would make in 2 years at her current job. Maybe 3 years. That is for 3 months, he added. If we need to extend the arrangement, we can renegotiate. You would also have access to a stylist for events, a car service when needed, and any other reasonable expenses covered. The agreement. Natalie's mind raced. She thought about her student loans, the medical bills from her mother's surgery last year, the constant stress of living paycheck to paycheck. She thought about how this money could change her life, give her breathing room, maybe even let her help her family. But she also thought about the lies, the deception, the risk of getting caught up in a world she did not understand. I need time to think about it, she said. Of course, Vincent replied. He pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it to her. Call me tomorrow. But Natalie, I need to know by noon. The story is already breaking, and we need to decide how to handle it. She took the card, her fingers brushing against his. Even that small contact sent a strange jolt through her. One more thing, Vincent said as she opened the door. Thank you. For tonight. For not making a scene, for playing along even when you had every right to walk away. Whatever you decide tomorrow, I am grateful. Natalie nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She climbed out of the car and watched as it pulled away, disappearing into the night traffic. As she rode the elevator up to her apartment, she caught sight of her reflection in the mirrored walls. She looked the same, but somehow everything had changed. Her lips still tingled from the kiss, her hand still felt warm where Vincent had held it. She had no idea what she was going to do. All she knew was that her simple, ordinary life had just become extraordinarily complicated. And deep down, in a place she was not quite ready to acknowledge, part of her was excited to see what would happen next. The true connection the morning after Natalie barely slept that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, Vincent's business card on her nightstand like a small white rectangle of possibility and danger. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt that kiss again, saw those intense gray eyes looking into hers. At 6 in the morning, her phone started buzzing. Text messages from friends who had seen the photos online. Calls from numbers she did not recognize. Her social media accounts were flooded with friend requests and messages from strangers. Vincent had been right. The story had exploded overnight. She made coffee with shaking hands and opened her laptop. The headlines were everywhere. Vincent Sterling's secret romance revealed. Who is the mystery woman who captured the billionaire's heart? Sterling Industries CEO goes public with relationship. Some articles were kind, spinning romantic narratives about love conquering all. Others were vicious, calling her a gold digger, questioning what a man like Vincent Sterling could possibly see in someone so ordinary. The comment sections were even worse. By 10 o'clock, Natalie had made her decision. She picked up her phone and dialed the number on the card. Vincent answered on the first ring. Natalie. I will do it, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. But I have conditions. Setting boundaries. They met at a private office in one of Vincent's buildings, away from prying eyes and cameras. The space was modern and minimalist, all glass and steel and expensive art that Natalie could not begin to appreciate. Vincent sat across from her at a sleek conference table, looking impossibly put together in another perfect suit. Natalie had dressed in her best professional outfit, determined not to feel completely out of her depth. Your conditions? He prompted. Natalie pulled out a notebook where she had written everything down during her sleepless night. First, this is strictly professional. No real romance, no blurred lines. We are business partners in this arrangement, nothing more. Vincent nodded. Agreed. Second, I want everything in writing. A contract that specifies exactly what is expected of me, how long this will last, and what happens when it ends. My lawyer is already preparing one. You can have your own lawyer review it before signing. I do not have a lawyer, Natalie admitted. I will provide one for you, Vincent said. Independent counsel who will represent only your interests, not mine. You should not sign anything without proper legal advice. Natalie felt a small knot of tension ease. He was being fair, treating this seriously. Third, my family cannot know this is fake. If I am going to lie to the world, I will not lie to them. So whatever story we tell, it needs to be convincing enough that I can believe it myself when I talk to my mother. Something flickered in Vincent's expression. Understanding, maybe, or respect. We can work with that, he said softly. What else? When this ends, you help me manage the fallout. You do not just disappear and leave me to deal with the media and the gossip alone. We have a plan for how to end things that does not make me look like the villain. Absolutely, Vincent agreed. I promise you, Natalie, when this is over, I will make sure you are protected. She believed him. Against all logic, despite everything, she believed him. Learning to play the part the next few weeks were a whirlwind. Natalie signed the contract after 3 days of review with the lawyer Vincent had provided, a sharp woman named Jennifer who made sure every clause protected Natalie's interests. The money was transferred to her account the same day, and Natalie nearly cried when she saw the balance. Then came the training. Vincent introduced her to Rebecca, a stylist who transformed Natalie's wardrobe with elegant clothes that somehow still felt like her. There were lessons on navigating high society events, on handling invasive questions from reporters, on maintaining composure under scrutiny, but the hardest part was learning to be comfortable with Vincent himself. They had dinner together twice a week, practicing conversation and building a believable history. Vincent asked about her life, her family, her dreams. Natalie found herself sharing more than she intended, talking about her father who had passed away when she was young, her mother who worked 2 jobs to support them, her younger brother who was in college on a scholarship. Vincent listened with genuine attention, asking thoughtful questions, remembering small details. And slowly, he began to share his own story, breaking down walls. My father built Sterling Industries from nothing, Vincent told her one evening over dinner at a quiet restaurant. He was brilliant, driven, and completely ruthless. He taught me that everything is a transaction, that emotion is weakness, that love is just another form of leverage people use against you. Natalie set down her fork, hearing the pain beneath his controlled tone. He died 5 years ago, Vincent continued. Heart attack at his desk. He was working on a merger deal. Even at the end, business came first. And I realized I had become exactly like him. I had built my entire life around the company, around success and power and control. I had forgotten how to be anything else. Is that why you did not want to marry Claudia? Natalie asked gently. Because it would just be another transaction? Vincent met her eyes. I did not want to marry Claudia because I looked at her and saw my future. A loveless partnership based on mutual benefit. Children raised by nannies while we attended board meetings. A life that looked perfect on the surface but was empty underneath. I told myself I did not believe in love, that it was not real. But I did not want to prove myself right by living that way. You do not believe in love? The question slipped out before Natalie could stop it. I did not, Vincent said quietly. Past tense. The air between them shifted, charged with something Natalie was afraid to name. The shift had happened gradually, so slowly that Natalie did not notice until it was too late. The way her heart beat faster when Vincent smiled at her. The way she found herself thinking about him during the day, wondering what he was doing, looking forward to their next scheduled appearance together. The way his touches, necessary for maintaining their public image, started to linger just a moment too long. The way he looked at her when he thought she was not paying attention, with an expression that seemed far too real for their fake arrangement. They attended a charity auction together, playing the part of the devoted couple. Vincent bid an outrageous amount on a painting simply because Natalie had mentioned she liked it. When she protested, he leaned close and whispered, "Let me spoil you a little. We are supposed to be in love, remember?" But it did not feel like pretending anymore. At a corporate dinner, an older businessman made a crude comment about Natalie. Vincent's entire demeanor changed in an instant, his voice turning to ice as he put the man firmly in his place. The protectiveness in his eyes was not part of any act. And then came the night everything changed. The confession. They were at Vincent's penthouse, preparing for a major interview the next day. The media interest had not died down, and Vincent's publicist had arranged for them to do a joint interview with a major news outlet to control the narrative. Natalie stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city lights spread below like a sea of stars. Vincent came to stand beside her, 2 glasses of wine in his hands. He offered her one. "Are you nervous about tomorrow?" he asked. Terrified, Natalie admitted. "What if I say something wrong? What if I mess this up for you?" "You will not," Vincent said with certainty. "You have been perfect at this. Better than I could have hoped. Better than I deserved." "Vincent. I need to tell you something," he interrupted, setting down his glass. "And I need you to let me finish before you respond." Natalie's heart began to pound. She nodded, not trusting her voice. "When I kissed you that night at the gala, it was calculated. A desperate move to escape a situation I could not control. But every moment since then has been real. The time we spend together, the conversations we have, the way I feel when I am with you. None of that is part of the arrangement anymore." He turned to face her fully, and Natalie saw vulnerability in his eyes that she had never seen before. "I have fallen in love with you, Natalie. Really, truly in love. And I know that was not part of the deal. I know I am breaking the rules we set. But I cannot pretend anymore. I cannot spend another evening with you, holding your hand and kissing your cheek for the cameras, while hiding how I really feel." Natalie's breath caught. The wine glass trembled in her hand. "I am not asking you to feel the same way," Vincent continued quickly. "I am not trying to pressure you or change our agreement. I just needed you to know the truth. Because pretending with you has become the most real thing in my life, and I cannot keep lying about that." The truth revealed. "You are an idiot," Natalie said, her voice shaking. Vincent's face fell. "I understand. I will make sure the contract is honored regardless of." "You are an idiot," Natalie repeated, setting down her glass and stepping closer to him, "because I fell in love with you weeks ago, and I have been terrified that you would never see me as anything more than a convenient solution to your problem." Hope flared in Vincent's eyes. "Natalie, I tried so hard to keep this professional," she said, her words tumbling out now. "I reminded myself every day that this was fake, that you were paying me, that when it ended you would go back to your world and I would go back to mine. But somewhere between the fancy dinners and the charity events and the quiet conversations where you actually listened to me, I stopped pretending. I stopped acting. Everything I felt became real." Vincent reached for her, his hands gentle as they cupped her face. "Are you sure? Because once we cross this line, there is no going back. This stops being a business arrangement and becomes something else entirely. Something that could hurt us both if it does not work out." "I am already in too deep to protect myself," Natalie whispered. "I would rather risk getting hurt than spend another day pretending what I feel for you is not real." Vincent smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile that transformed his entire face. "Then we are both idiots together." When he kissed her this time, it was nothing like that first shocking encounter at the gala. This kiss was soft and sweet and filled with all the feelings they had been holding back. Natalie melted into his arms, her hands sliding up to wrap around his neck, and for the first time in weeks, everything felt right. The new beginning. The next morning, they did the interview together. But instead of the carefully rehearsed story they had planned, they told a version much closer to the truth. How they had met unexpectedly. How they had started spending time together. How they had both been surprised to find something real growing between them. The interviewer asked Natalie what it was like to date someone as powerful and wealthy as Vincent Sterling. She looked at the man beside her, remembering the vulnerability in his eyes when he confessed his feelings, the way he listened to her stories about her family with genuine interest, how he had held her last night like she was something precious. Honestly, Natalie said, I barely notice all of that. When I am with Vincent, I just see him. Not the CEO, not the billionaire, not the public figure. Just the man who makes me laugh, who challenges me to be better, who sees me for who I really am. That is what matters. Vincent took her hand, squeezing gently, his eyes shining with emotion. When the interview ended and the cameras stopped rolling, Vincent pulled Natalie aside. We need to end the contract, he said. Natalie's heart sank. What? Not us, Vincent clarified quickly. Just the business arrangement. I do not want you here because I am paying you. I want you here because you choose to be. Because we are building something real together. But the money is yours regardless. It was payment for services rendered, and you more than earned it. But from this moment forward, we are together because we want to be, not because of any contract or obligation. Natalie felt tears prick her eyes. What about Claudia? What about your family and the board? Let me worry about that, Vincent said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I have spent my whole life making decisions based on what was best for business, for the company, for everyone except myself. For once, I am choosing what I want. And what I want is you, Natalie Brooks. Not as a fake girlfriend or a convenient solution, but as my real partner. If you will have me. Natalie kissed him instead of answering, pouring everything she felt into that simple gesture. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. I guess that is a yes, Vincent murmured. That is definitely a yes. 6 months later, Vincent announced his engagement to Natalie Brooks at another charity gala. This time, there were no surprises, no desperate ploys, no fake arrangements. Just two people who had found something real in the most unexpected way, standing together in front of the world and choosing love over convenience, connection over control, happiness over obligation. And when Vincent kissed his fiancée this time, every single person in the room could see it was genuine. The billionaire CEO who had never believed in love had found it with an ordinary girl who had taught him that the most extraordinary things in life cannot be bought, controlled, or planned. They could only be felt, chosen, and cherished.